What's up, gang? You know what it is. Another Friday, another live stream coming at you hot and handsome from Satera Tuning. We're going to let some people filter in before we go over the old shop updates, see what Arturo's getting his hands dirty with. See that Jeep over there? Get some would you, should you, could you's going on, and a little product review. So let's tap in. Let's see what's going on. Let's let some people join. And let's start off with Arturo. Let me know how I sound as well, because I'm trying something out. Oh, horrible. That wasn't for you. That wasn't for you. That was for the people watching, because I'm trying a different setting.
Oh, my bad.
Arturo's working his magic. What are you doing, bud? Looks like a whole lot of nothing.
Just making things fit in holes.
Making things fit in holes.
Yeah.
The classic.
Boom.
Little street catch can install on this 392. This one also got an IGLA?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, so this car, peace of mind, protected with an IGLA. Where's the IGLA installed, you ask? I don't know. No one knows. That's the best thing about it. Hidden. Arturo knows. He's the only one that knows where it's hidden in this car. So that's one of the beauties about it. Tuck them away, hide them. Suited, booted, ready to go. But yeah, Arturo's gonna get his catch can on, do his little thing. And off we go. So, protected both from theft and from those horrible oil vapors. So, let's see what else. The Rango in the shop. The Rango, this is the one you saw him throwing together. So, engine's on the cradle, header's on, built trans is on, built T-case is in. She is built to the nines, baby. So this car got a new subframe. This is one of the things that we talk about. This is a higher mileage vehicle. And when we pulled the subframe, rust hole. Not good. Not good. You never want anything like that. So brand new subframe. Make sure it is as strong as it can be with all this horsepower we're adding. We're waiting for subframe bushings before we can toss her back in. Womp. So... new subframe, waiting for bushings. This thing looks so sexy. I can't wait. I can't wait, y'all.
You don't have to.
I don't have to.
You don't have to.
Oh, I'm going to have to. Hurry up, Arturo. The subframe bushings are right here. What are you doing? Oh, they just got placed an hour ago. And look at you doing something else. Despicable. Look at you. Not even doing subframe bushings. All right, all right. Let's let Arturo do his thing. Stop annoying him. 6-1 going together for this Jeep. Waiting on parts. Wouldn't you believe it? Waiting on parts. So, that's that. New Whipple in the house. This is the one I showed you with the updated internals. Now you guys can really see it. Look at that. Look at that. So nice to see. So, this one going back together. Don't be yelling, I'm on live. Yeah, you should be. Inner chiller getting set up with the upgraded intercooler pump in there. So, making things happy, making things fast, making things pretty. Speaking of pretty, speaking of fast, this Jeep. Wait a minute, there's an intercooler on here now. There's some charge pipes on here. Wait a minute, let's come over here. Whoa, downpipe? So downpipe is set up. I don't want to lower it because there's a bike here. Downpipe set up, wastegate set up, charge pipes are starting to get set up. Big old Treadstone intercooler right up front installed. Just a bit of... other side charge pipes going back together, and then she'll be suited and booted. Not sure if we're using this or if this is just sitting around, but here's something I found on a table. That's kind of cool. All jokes, but she is very close. That big, look at that turbo, man. I think he should even run a headlight. What do you guys think? Should he put a headlight on this thing and cover that turbo up, or should he let her sing? Man, I vote no headlight. I vote no headlight. I vote redo the exhaust, hood dump, let her be loud. So let's see what else is going on. Little PPF action. Matt's working his magic. So matte black decal on a gloss black car. We got to let these sit for a bit per the instructions. So put these on yesterday. They've sat for the allotted time. And now we get to put on the rest of the stripe, lining it up with the first stripe. Very tedious job, but that's what Matt does, and he does it very well. So I think that pipe is meant for the purple car. It might be. It might be. I believe you're right, but I don't know. I'm just here to look pretty. Look at, he knocked it out of the park on how that fit. Damn, Matt. Matt's the guy. If your car is here for work and you want wrapping done, you want PPF done, PPF fender flares done, detailing, let us know. We got you covered. Old man's laughing over there. He's just laughing because he hasn't taken advantage of our detailing program for that dirty old Mazda. Oh, I heard him. I hurt him. He knows. He knows. Clean that Mazda, old man. It's gonna be clean. It's gonna be clean. Matt's gonna touch it. Matt's gonna do his touch. But just want to let you know how it's going. So you'll see this thing finalized shortly. Matt's just doing his magic. So heck yeah, brother. Heck yeah. That's about that. Don't forget, machines are not running right now. It's just taking a little breather. But. Whoa, valve covers. So sexy. So pretty. Buy them. Buy them now. If you haven't already seen on our website, SateraTuningstore.com, with the code TOOLOW, spelled T-L-O-W, TOOLOW, T-L-O, everything's 2% off. Build Evolution products, injectors, spark plugs, tires, whatever you want, baby. 2% off just because I love y'all and I want to help y'all hold ports. If you don't have a spare bedroom in your house that's full of wheels, tires, engines, heads, headers, what are you doing? We need to hoard parts. If everyone does it with me, everyone buys a ton of parts and just litters them around the house, it looks more normal and no one can tell me I have a problem. Please join me. SateraTuningstore.com. Too low. If you need the code, it's on a Facebook post. If you still need the code, you can message us. If you can't find what you need, message us because we'll have it. All my stuff's with y'all minus radials. You can do that too, but you can buy them. All right, let's go in. Let's talk to Jeremy. Let's get this could you, should you going. Let's discuss thermostats. Let's discuss temperatures. Let's discuss drawing. No option to mirror it, unfortunately. No? There is a enhanced voice, which I tried. And it sounds kind of nice. But
does it? I don't know if it sounds... Let's put it down.
I don't know. Here. I got it in my ear hole.
Put it up top last time, and it looked weird, like we were looking up at somebody. It was just very creepy. So now you can back up a little bit. It's fine, yeah. It's because you got to get it back.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't either. All right, guys, what's going on? Jeremy checking in now. So, this week, we are going to talk about 180 T-stats. Specifically, Mishimoto is who we use. In all our builds, doesn't matter, 5.7, 6.1, 392, Hellcat, does not matter.
You get it.
We've done, like everybody, we've tested and tried a lot, and our failure rate on these is very low. I will tell you, it is based off of installation. So a lot of people don't know there is a right and wrong way to install a thermostat. So, here we go. Let's
crack into it, baby.
Crack in, right? Yeah. Brand new. There it is.
Crack in, brand new. Speaking of brand new, if you want to get one of these, head over to our store, which I was just talking about. Enter that cool coupon code, and you can save a little bit of cheddar.
All right, guys. So this is the trick. See that little guy right there? You want that as high up as you can get it. So it should be at the top during installation. I know they sit at angles and things, but what we see on failed ones is those are on the bottom, okay? You don't think it does a lot, but it's a very important piece of a thermostat. So we have a very low failure rate when it comes to thermostats. At the end of the day, a lot of aftermarket stuff, anything is going to fail, but we use them on pretty much any high horsepower build where somebody wants lower T-stat settings, and this is the one that we use. So Mishimoto 180, we've had great success. I know you hear other things out there, but usually, like I said, it comes down to the installation. So
I've had mine installed in my own car for like 2.5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Same one, not a single issue.
Right.
Taking it to Florida and back.
yeah, so we, countless of these installed, and like I said, we're at a less than a 1%, probably, yeah, definitely less than 1% failure rate, and it happens. You're not going to have perfect success. That's what warranties are for,
Nothing's
right?
perfect.
Nothing's perfect. No such thing. So this is going to segue into temperatures.
Yes.
Okay. So why do people want lower thermostats? Why do we put these into our builds? Well, we're going to debunk some things that some people hear on the internet, and they're not going to believe us. Or the guy over in that other group said the exact opposite. Or you see everybody getting lower thermostats, and they want to put them in with no tunes because it's going to add so much horsepower.
Yes.
Well, it's not the case at all.
What?
And we're going to break down the reasons why.
What do you mean?
So what does this do? What this is it reduces the temperature in which it opens and allows coolant to fully flow through the engine and the radiator simultaneously. Okay, so it allows you to cool the temperatures down of the actual engine coolant and bring your overall temperatures down. So that is why you put it in. Now, these don't really work unless you get a tuning adjustment for it. So do keep that in mind. So when you go from a 206 stock thermostat down to a 180, nothing will change because the thermostat doesn't truly control the cooling. It just opens the passageway. What controls the cooling is the fan settings. So if you have a clutch fan on a Ram, something like that, very different. But if you're talking about anything modern with electronic fans, the fan settings are really where the benefit in regards to dropping that temperature comes from. So that's I see people all the time throwing these in, and they don't get a tune and expect to change. It's not necessarily going to be the case. If you have a failed thermostat and you throw this in, then yes, it's going to correct the issue, but you're not going to see the reduced temperatures. So why do people think a lower coolant temperature is better? Anybody that's in here will ask the question later on and kind of revisit. And I see people joining in, but why do people think a lower coolant temperature is better? I'm going to tell you why. 2 reasons. The internet and old school setups, right? Old school big blocks or small blocks even where, fans weren't as efficient. They were all clutched or, things like that. That's the reason why there's not a benefit for it. And this has come from data. This has come from track results. This has come from dyno. I'm going to break down what you are doing with your coolant and what is important with temperatures. Engine coolant is just one of the fluids in your engine. Okay, so what you're trying to do is you're reducing the coolant or the water that's flowing through the block, through the radiator, and all the cooling passages. The reason why that's not very beneficial on most vehicles, because they actually like heat in regards to the engine itself. What? Heat's the bad guy. It depends on the heat you're talking about. So what people think is the colder the engine, the more horsepower it makes, and that's not true. These fuel-injected engines actually make more horsepower. They are truly designed, cam profile, everything like that, based off of being at an operating temp. This also coincides with oil temperatures. If you're reducing your coolant temperature, your oil temperatures are going to drop. And that's also not good as well. A lot of people don't know that oils have a breakdown in the viscosity changes based on the actual temperature. So we need to hit that desired temperature for everything to work correctly, okay? And the old myth of cooler is better, what people are confusing is we want colder inlet temperatures in regards to the air going in, not necessarily the engine. The goal is to have a engine at operating temperature, a nice hot engine with cold air going into it. You are going to make the most power. I've done back-to-back dyno pulls, and every pull on like an NA car, the horsepower continues to just go up and up and up and up because I'm in a controlled environment. So naturally, we can have the hood open and fans blowing and make sure that the air it's ingesting stays the same. And the only thing that's changing is the coolant and the oil are getting hotter. So although when you break down oil viscosity and the ratings of it, they're designed to start off technically thinner, and then as they get hotter, the viscosity number built into it is broken down based on at 100 degrees Celsius what thickness that oil is at that given time versus on initial startup at a lower temperature. Okay, so that's when you have like 0 W40. It means at startup It's a very low viscosity, meaning it's thin, so it allows it to get places. And then as it achieves its operating temperature, it's designed to hold that viscosity at that given temperature, okay? So when you start lowering the thermostat, you're now reducing the temperatures that your oil is seeing, so the viscosity of that changes. And what happens is when you don't have as hot of oil, it's not as thin and flowing as it should be as compared to when it's cold naturally, right? I mean, a cold oil is thick. You need the temperature to allow it to flow with the characteristics that you want. There are oils out there designed, racing oil specifically more so, where a lower temperature is acceptable, but on a daily driven car, you don't want to run those oils, and that's not what you're trying to achieve. The other problem we run into is condensation. So everybody knows when they get out to the car in the morning and there's dew on the window, or you start up a car and you can see on the hood where the condensation builds up until everything achieves operating temperatures, right? You have an oil pan that's metal, you have a block that's metal, and there's humidity in the air, and these engines aren't completely sealed per se, right? So you can develop condensation inside your engine. What temperature does water evaporate? Too low. Science question.
I cheated a lot in school, guys.
Oh, God. All right, 212 degrees, right? So what that means is if your crankcase is not achieving 212 degrees or above, oil that has water in it is not going to evaporate the oil or the water. Okay, so has anybody seen their catch can full of milky oil and they think their head gasket's blown?
Oh, your head gasket exploded, man.
Number one, oh, your catch can's full of milky oil, your head gasket blew. No, it's because there's a lot of condensation in there, okay? That happens in oil as well. So if you have a car that you move around a parking lot a lot or at your home and you just move it back and forth and you don't let it get to full operating temp, if you check your oil level is going to go up and it will continue to get more milky, and your catch can will fill up with more milky oil. This is because you are not achieving your operating temp where you're going to be able to break down all of those extra things in the oil. So it's one of those, it goes hand in hand. So again, the question is, why do you think a lower thermostat will make more power? And the reason why people think is they go, oh, my engine bay is going to be cooler, so I'm going to get colder air. That's not true. Think about it, guys. If you're dropping your coolant temperature 20, maybe 30 degrees, is your air charge temps really going to be 20 to 30 degrees colder? No, because when you're talking 200 degrees either way, it's hot. You don't have an intercooler on it, so it's not going to be dropping down in that type of circumstance. What's going to determine what your inlet charge temps are is more so your intake design. Get a big old, LMI intake not designed for your car with nothing around it and a big filter on it.
What are you talking about?
All you're going to do is suck in hot air.
Are you throwing shade at someone?
I am. So you can put a 180 thermostat. This guy, he put a Hellcat.
Yeah,
LMI
I did.
intake. LMI is a great intake. Don't get me wrong. You just
They're
don't
pretty.
put a Hellcat one onto a
I had
Hellcat.
it. It was sitting around in my garage.
I had it. Anyways. So that is why that a thermostat is not going to gain you any power. There are literally no benefits to a lower thermostat on a modern vehicle. Race cars are different. I'm talking daily driven, standard bolt-on car, anything like that. To the point.
My bone stock 5.7 won't benefit?
Not at all.
Uh-oh.
Now, as an example too, my personal Charger, when it was twin turbo, like I said, we made 1500 wheel, mid-8 second car, had a stock thermostat in it. Okay? When are they beneficial? When do you want to jump to it? Super, super high horsepower cars. And the reason being on that is when you do it's okay because when you do a wide open throttle pull for a 60 to 130 or a long 10-second pull, that everything's going to get really hot because the amount of friction that's occurring. So it's okay to drop it back down as long as you put it through the cycles. Okay. So yeah, we do it on our Hellcat packages because they come hot. They got PD blowers. Everything is hot. And I know that internally they're still able to achieve those oil temperatures that we need based on what it is. But like 5.7, 392 NA cars, not needed at all. You know what I mean? And the only other time I think I understand is going to be an extremely, extremely hot climate where you just want to kind of aid in the flow and kick it early before, it's 120 ambient out and you want to kind of help your fans out a little bit and just let that coolant flow even if it's cooler. That's fine, but it's not for a performance reason. I got to try and get that out there. I know people are going to disagree with me, and the way these engines are designed from the factory, it's set at their operating temperature. It's a cleaner burn. It's a better burn. The oils themselves, the fluids themselves, are easier for the crankshaft and the bearings and everything to flow through it. everything about it is better in regards to that. What you want to try to do is cool everything around it in regards to the air. Fuel, right? Used to be a big thing back in the day, fuel coolers. That's a good thing. You don't want vapor lock going into your returnless style fuel rails. So that's one of those things where if you really want to start exploring, you want to cool it from the inside out, not the outside in. That's where the benefit comes from. I see chillers, for example, on air to water intercooled vehicles. You're cooling the air as it goes in. That is ideal. That's why there's intercoolers on turbo cars and centrifugal blowers. You want to cool the air itself. You don't want to cool the engine bay. So I know it hurts. I know it's hard to understand because the internet says otherwise. A thermostat is not a power increasing modification. Okay, these cars don't achieve those type of conditions, and what's more reliable, more important, is making sure everything gets up to temperature. Okay, we talk about MDS failure and all that stuff, and people talk about it's the oiling issues and things like that. Do you think, we all agree it's an oiling issue. Now, do you think it's beneficial to have extra thick oil trying to achieve the highest point of the engine and get to those MDS lifters because you put a lower thermostat in it and the oil's not getting to its desired temperature? Just so you all know, the viscosity of oil, like I said earlier, is rated at 100 degrees Celsius, which is boiling 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So if your oil does not truly achieve 212 degrees, you're technically not reaching that breakdown of viscosity point of the oil you are running. These are very important things. You have to see when that breakdown point happens for the viscosity and the ratings on it. Every oil company can, adjust accordingly, but the standard is based off of 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit is when that viscosity happens. So when it comes to lifter failure and things like that, it's do you think really a thermostat is the way to go? There's a time, there's a place, and we do use them all the time. It's just not for everybody, so do assess that. All right. So I see some good questions coming through.
I saw one oil-related while we're on the topic of oil. They say use the SRT oil on the motors. People fight over oil all the time in forums, never-ending since the inception of forums. Is there a reason why you'd want to use the Pennzoil SRT oil over Mobil 1? If I use Mobil 1 in my car, is everything going to explode?
No.
Oh.
So oil, ready for a surprise like gas, oil comes from the same spot, and then it goes to companies, and then they put their additives in it. So it's basically a contractual agreement they have with certain companies because it used to be Mobil 1, Pennzoil, Valvoline for some. It bounces around all the time. The fact about it is, as long as you have a good quality, high quality, top brand synthetic oil, they're about the same. I was having a conversation with the customer earlier today about it. More so what's important is the rate of when you do your oil change, not necessarily the oil that you use. The problem is we're all getting in our heads that, 7,500 miles, 10,000 miles is okay. The fact of the matter is I don't believe in that, and I still will change my oil at 2,000-3,000 miles. And I think that will go a lot further than the actual brand that's used. Keeping it clean, making sure there's no, gunk buildup or anything like that. My drive to work is very short, so I know I'm diluting my oil, so it's important to keep up on it. And
have a catch can.
Have a catch can. That's good for not ingesting oil, but it's one of those things where I really feel like the rate of maintenance is more important than actually the brand that you use. But stick with the top name brands. There's a reason of the top name brands. And obviously consult with your shopper engine builder if you have a built motor or anything like that on what they recommend as well. Everybody has their opinion, and mine is based off of experience and what I've done in my own vehicles and what I've seen. So that's more so. No, you don't have to. I know that the big question is the oil filter too. I will say not all oil filters are made the same. Again, stick to a high quality brand, one that's been around a while. OEM is fine. Obviously the engineers like it. That's there. We use Mobil 1 filters on all of our cars. So, again, it's just more of a preference in what we've seen work. So, good question. What else?
Will you gain horsepower on a NA cam-only car with injectors and a fuel pump?
Oh, we kind of covered this last week about changing the fuel system out. So, when building any engine, what we are trying to do is force air into it. Whether it's, by a power adder, by, improving the efficiency with a heads cam setup, whatever the case may be. What you need to do is match your fuel system to the amount of airflow that's in place. So you don't just change your fuel pump and your injectors to a larger size expecting that you're going to get more power. The only time that's the case is if you ran out of fuel injector or pump at the same time. You know what I mean? So that's the time to change it. The reality is, on an NA bolt-on car, the factory fuel pumps are more than enough. Even if you go to E85, you might have a tired pump, but you can just go back to a factory pump that lasts for a while with that. It doesn't mean you're going to make more power just by increasing the size and capability of your fuel system if it doesn't need it because there's not enough airflow. So you can check into our, I think it was last week we covered it a little more in depth about throwing, Hellcat injectors into a stock 5.7 will I make more power? No, you won't. You know what I mean? No.
Please stop.
Definitely match your injector and fuel system to that, the amount of air that goes into it. So,
speaking of airflow, fuel injectors, and tuning, can you just keep adding timing to a tune? Just keep throwing timing at it. What do you mean I'm done, Jeremy?
Absolutely.
She's got more in it. She's healthy.
Yeah,
Throw 3 more degrees at it.
Yeah, so we started a board for questions we got this week.
Yep.
So I know it's backwards because we can't fix that. But so we're keeping that up here. So the first could you, should you, technically could you, should you, add more timing to your tune? Do you just keep adding timing? How do you determine that? So this is the thing. Every vehicle is different, from heads, cam, compression, wear and tear, airflow, weather conditions, fueling. There's no specific number. There's a range of number of where we know to go. Now, there is a thing called MBT, max brake torque timing. That is what generally tuners are trying to achieve. Now, from the factory, the engineers are nice and they tell us what they have calculated that number to be. The fact is, I will tell you, it's a very high number compared to what is actually run. This is perfect world conditions, perfect fueling, blah, 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 right? So the way we find actual MBT timing is you take your steps. And that's why people out there saying, paying somebody $1,000 to tune a car for your motor and trans when it's stock is useless. Well, it depends on the process you take. If you're a canned tuner where you're advertising you do a canned tune, if you are what they call a copy and paste tuner where you're literally just copying from the last car and putting it in, yeah, sure. What we do, I don't care how many of them I do, I put a wideband in it, and I go through the reps of getting the heat cycles in it, verifying the timing, verifying the fueling, making sure it is truly dialed in. And I will tell you this, not every car can take the same timing. So what we do in the process is we continue to dial in AFR, the fueling, make sure it's spot on, and then we continue to add timing. And what we're doing is we're either reading or listening to the knock sensor. So majority of the cars, especially stock bolt-on cars, we just rely on the knock sensor readings to determine once we see detonation of any kind. There are moments where you have to diagnose if it's real or not. We call it false knock, right? Loud exhaust, putting a blower on an NA car.
Motor mounts,
worn, things rubbing in places they shouldn't. A lot of variables can create false knocks. So first you have to determine the knock you're seeing, if it's real or not. Not diving into the real technical side. There's a lot of ways to do that. Once you determine that, essentially, you learn what MBT is by either 1, you start to see detonation and you start to back it down, or 2, if you have a fuel like good E85, it's very hard to actually get detonation out of E85. It's very difficult, meaning you can actually exceed MBT timing because it just won't detonate. How do you know? That's what a dyno's for. It's a tool to tell us what the power is. So I can do a pull, have a degree, add a degree, and all of a sudden I'll see the power start to drop in the other direction. That means I exceeded MBT timing. So then you go back and you verify that setting and you found what it is. Do you run MBT timing? Not often, because that is a perfect world scenario from temperatures, weather, fueling, all the combination of things there. And the truth is we don't see a lot of that. Race cars, have at it. Good luck. That's the point, right? Yeah. We lean on them. So
it's a race
understand car. If you're racing, there is always a chance you're going to see something go boom because we try to achieve and get as close to MBT timing as possible. For a daily driver car, it's okay to lose a couple degrees. I will tell you this. Unless you have a 14-to-1 compression motor with a ton of boost in it, 1 or 2 degrees of timing being pulled out is not a game changer, right? On a Hellcat that's making 900 wheel horsepower is 20 horsepower. Right? 880 is still a very fast car. Guess what? It's going to live a little longer. Mm-hmm. So
I'll sacrifice power for the reliability all day.
And what I also want to throw out there too, I heard a lot of it in the past, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks, is can you get more? I want more power. I feel like my power is low. Yeah. I can't just pull power out of my butt.
Be nice.
And I'm not going to just sit there continuing to add timing to prove a point. So it's one of those, you guys got to understand, every vehicle is different. The gains you get from a certain mod, the final number on the dyno is going to vary, right? You can't compare it to the highest horsepower car that's ever been on the dyno. That's why it varies. That's why we give a range for our packages. Mm-hmm.
I saw this on the internet make this amount. Why can't I?
Comparing to somebody else, it's not good. We can tell and know when we're hitting that limit, right? And comparing to somebody else or making a fuss over 1 or 2 horsepower or 10 or 20 horsepower when you're talking a big number, you got to understand, guys, there's so many variables that go into play of what that dyno actually outputs, okay? So, and a tuner, a shop can't just make power happen. You know, I'll be honest, we had guys complaining in a 5.7 group, calling them out, that, you know, they didn't think that we were overcharging by the cost of putting a quality set of headers on a car and the fact that only might gain 20 horsepower. I can't make what the horsepower is. I can't determine that. And, you know, getting into a disagreement in regards to that when the parts alone are $4,500, $5,000, you know, on a package that's $7-8 grand, you got tuning, you got labor, you got, you know, cost of materials and things like that go into it. We can't determine what that end-all power is going to be. We didn't make the cars, you know. So you got to understand that at the end of the day, it's put together by somebody else, and we're just trying to squeeze out every last bit we can. So it's one of those where you can't always expect or get upset if it's a little different than the last guy. Some people are high, some people are low. There's always going to be somebody faster. Just understand that an engine is going to make what it makes, and we have to rely on the settings, the data, all the sensors to tell us what it likes. There's ways to measure it, and that's the whole purpose of tuning, is to verify what those settings are to try and optimize the power and reliability at the same time. But just because you're unhappy with the number doesn't mean I can just add more horsepower, right? I'm not trying to do this to make you unhappy. I'm not trying to do this to undercut the power. But, you know, if your car only gained 20 horsepower for a given mod when others got 25, it's the way your car is. There's no change or anything that can be done. I'm just going to keep throwing time in or just lean it out a little bit just to try and achieve that number. That's not the point. So,
I mean, I guess a great example of that is what's the range for a stock Hellcat on our dyno?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a bone stock car.
Yeah, and in regards to what he's saying on that, we've had cars make 610 wheel horsepower all the way up to 695.
And they're stock.
Bone stock. No, and this is literally a stock car from the factory. We've had those different type of outputs, right? So the way they respond to modifications. So we had Alex from Legit Street Cars with his auction-bought Hellcat. He set the record on our dyno for the highest stock horsepower Hellcat. Well, I warned him that this was going to happen. When we modify it, the gains aren't going to be as big as a car that started with lower horsepower, and that's exactly what happened. It made the expected power with the modifications, but the starting point was a lot higher than others. So his end-all gain wasn't the same, but the actual output is exactly what we, you know, anticipated, right? So that's, again, you cannot compare. Just because you made more horsepower when you started doesn't mean you're going to necessarily make more horsepower in the end. It's right. Every car is different. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So no, don't just keep, you know, as we say, just plus two, and keep going until you see a rod. Good job.
Mm-hmm. So, on the topic of tuning, how does our true flex fuel work? Does it work for 392s, 5.7s?
We can revisit this. We have a couple of lives where we dove into it in full detail. I'll just keep it more simple. It only works on Hellcat powered vehicles. We are still trying and exploring and hoping to see if we can get something out there for the 5.7, 392, 6.1 guys. Right now, you guys are just set with, you know, specific tunes to a given ethanol content. So ride it out. We're trying, but that's what you get. True flex fuel, we call it true because it's an actual flex fuel. So what it is an ethanol content sensor that we feed into the factory PCM, in which then the tune is automatically changed based on the sensor input from the ethanol content sensor. So it's a true flex fuel. It adjusts timing, it adjusts spark, it adjusts torque management, it adjusts everything. We also have the ability to bleed boost. We're the only ones out there that offer the ability with a flex fuel setup of any kind to bleed boost. So it's a very safe setup. It also will optimize your power and give you the same power as a straight E85 tune as well, if you have that, if you put E85 in the tank. So it's the safest, most flexible way to tune a vehicle for flex fuel. Now, what are the other ways of flex fuel? Because that's kind of the follow-up question to it. So again, ours uses an ethanol sensor that feeds into the factory PCM, all factory, and then it changes the tune accordingly. The other option is what's called inferred logic. Just like it sounds, inferred means it's guessed. It's an estimate. It's a math equation to guess what the ethanol content is. There is no physical ethanol sensor giving feedback to the computer. This is how most others do it. Can it control fuel? Yes. Can it control spark? Yes. The problems you start to see with that and the cautions are when you transition from one fuel to the other, there's a learning process. So did the learn take correctly? I don't know. It's really based off of the O2 sensors and the corrections of fueling. So to start off, your tune has to be truly dialed in, perfect in regards to fueling for that to be accurate, right? And I know a lot of guys out there have devoted a lot of time to get that the case. Now, as the O2 sensors read, right, oh, it's lean, I'm going to up my ethanol content guess, and then all of a sudden it zeroes out because I added fuel. All right, now I'm going to guess it was 70% ethanol. Cool. Well, what happens if you have a vacuum leak?
Oh.
What happens if you have an exhaust leak? What happens if you have an O2 sensor that's going bad?
These things happen all the time.
Yeah, or more than often than not. You guys have seen our lives that are here often when we're installing headers and we smoke test, right? How many have we had in the past couple of months that we had to send back as brand new headers or even used headers on a reinstall? Okay, that happens over time. If you put headers on a car or a mid-pipe or a catback or something like that and you jarred the exhaust loose and develop an exhaust leak or just wear and tear naturally as things go on. These are things you have to consider when it comes to an inferred logic tune, is that it is a guess. There is no way to truly, match it. Sure, on the true flex fuel, if the ethanol content sensor fails, obviously it's going to feed incorrectly. Guess what? You can see that. It literally, there's a reading for it. It feeds in, and we have safety defaults for that as well. So that can't happen on inferred. Everything has to be 100%, 100%, especially with those exhaust readings. The last one, which not a big fan of it, is piggybacking systems that intercept the injector data to your computer. Meaning, it's a little box that plugs into your injector's harness. It jumps in, and then the signal from the computer goes, "Hey, I want 10 milliseconds for this given load," right? Well, the computer goes, "Hey, it uses an ethanol sensor." It does, and it goes, "Hey, we have 70% ethanol. Throw another 25% fuel at it." Cool. So instead of the injector opening for 10 milliseconds, it opens for 12.5. Okay, so your fueling is going to adjust, right? The problem there is torque readings for torque management, transmission shift characteristics, and things like that are based on the injector output. So all of a sudden you're increasing, can be 30, 40% depending on your given setup of the amount of fuel that's needed by this piggyback. The computer doesn't see it. So it could drive funny. You might be shifting in the wrong shift tables, right? If you have more, if you have more torque by E85, you want the transmission to, adjust accordingly. It doesn't do that on these. The other thing, too, is timing isn't touched. So you're running pump gas timing with the 85. So you lose part of the benefit, okay? The last thing that's a concern of mine, mainly more so for the Hellcat-powered vehicles, but one of the safety settings in place is injector pulse width. So Hellcat-powered vehicles have wide bands from the factory, right? So if your fuel pump starts dying, gets weak, you're in a condition where the commanded fueling isn't spot on, the O2 sensor showing lean will continue to add fuel, and there's a point when the injector gets to a certain setting that you input in the tune, it will then bleed boost. That's removed. Okay, so unless they go in the tune and lower that setting again to a number that doesn't make sense because they have to compensate for the fact the computer is not receiving the right signals. So those are kind of the three ways you have it. Obviously, the fourth being only available on 18 and newer Hellcats at this time is our Satan 170 Flex Fuel. We were able to implement our Demon 170 Flex Fuel into any 18 or newer Hellcat.
That's car only?
Car only, Charger, Challenger. The SUVs
Hellcat.
and the trucks, Hellcat and Red Eyes,
Yes. No scats, sorry.
We have a scat here we're working on. The SUVs, I think I know what it needs to do it. The problem is the end-all cost is going to be upwards of like $8 to $10,000 to implement.
Ooh.
So
just do True Flex.
I just don't. Yeah, the True Flex is much cheaper than that. So I don't think it's going to be available on those at this given time until we can get some more tricks up our sleeves. But right now, it's just not looking like it's feasible.
Only publicly available for 18 and newer Hellcat vehicle. Cars.
Charger, Challenger,
Charger.
no trucks or SUVs.
No scats.
The 57392s in that, we are trying. We have one here. We are working on it so far. I will tell you, it drives around the parking lot with the calibration in it, so I have the vehicle driving, but there's a couple things missing that have it into a limp mode. I'll just be honest with it. So we are working on that to see, but that is what the difference between our True Flex fuel compared to the others. So
absolutely. I saw a E85 question earlier.
Yeah.
From David Witt, he says, have you data logged any stock Demon 170s?
Yes.
A bunch of documented engine failures in these cars, and have heard the non-E85 factory tuned is too aggressive on the 170s. I would like to add a 170, but no 85 in Myrtle Beach.
All right, great question. Yes, I've tuned stock Demon 170s. I have several tunes of them. We just installed a Demon 170 complete crate engine into a Durango Hellcat.
Oh yeah, we did.
And this is what I'm going to tell you about it. So the compression, head cam profile, everything. If I were to build this engine in my shop, and then I'm building a setup for a customer, I would tell them, hey, you want to keep boost around 15, 16 pounds because of what all of those things are, okay? The Demon 170 from the factory makes about 20 to 22 pounds depending on your altitude and temperatures.
Wow.
And they say it's safe to run on pump gas. So I've seen the tunes, I've seen how they do it. It's pretty scary to me. So that Demon 170 Durango that we just did, I made it a little extra conservative on the pump gas side of it. I'm not a big fan of it. And would I run it on my personal vehicle? No, I would not. It's, to me, very high risk. And the way they have it set up, I see why and how they're doing it. But I'm not, like I said, I wouldn't normally do that myself. And I really think the engineers behind it thought, these guys, because it's Flexway, are going to run E85 and it's mainly a pump gas thing just to kind of, say that we did it. And or like our true Flexway, right? We have boosted setups to make 20, 21 pounds. Before there was a boost bleed, it was kind of like, hey, you can drive on pump gas, just don't abuse it. Yeah, that's kind of where I'd be. Even if I had a Demon 170 and they tell me I can do it, I personally wouldn't do it, just based on all things considered. There's no special settings in regards to cam timing or anything like that where they're really trying to bleed boost. They don't have a boost bleed feature like we do for our True Flex Fuel. So the fact beyond it is, yes, I've seen it. It, to me, is still very aggressive for what it is. Whatever they tell you to do, cool. If you leave it stock and it pops, that's what a warranty's for. But personally, if I was owning one or I were to run a setting like that, I would not abuse the vehicle on pump gas at all in any way, shape, or form.
Give her that E and let her E.
Absolutely. I really think that's what they kind of designed this vehicle for. Although they did put the wrong spark plugs in it and didn't gap them correctly, so you got to change that as well. So part of why I think a lot of the failures happening is overfeeling just due to cat over temp and constant abuse. So that's kind of my thing with it is, in racing form and they're trying to set records and everything, it really is, race specific, and daily driving are the guys that are hot lapping these things and so on and so forth. I personally think that's part of it. But the motors are pretty, again, this is the other thing, just like a red eye, right? People think they're stronger. It's a decent motor for a factory motor, man, but these things aren't invincible, right? These things, you don't want to try to make 13, 1400 horsepower out of them. They don't have the things in place to do so. They are reinforced for the power that they have, and I think it's a good setup for what it is. But yeah, I wouldn't run it on pump gas.
Yeah. Going off the Demon 170 questions.
Yeah.
At what percentage is full power at 70% ethanol?
Correct. Yeah, that's how they have it set up. Is roughly about 70% is where it gets maximum power. Again, when we break that down, we've talked about it in past videos. When you fill up at a pump, there is no regulation on what the non-ethanol portion is. So when you have 70% in the tank, for example, you truly don't know what that 30% is. They might throw 50 octane in there, right? So your octane level is dropping. So with a super aggressive tune at 70%, you lean on hoping it's 90, 91, 93 is that 30%. So your octane level is still very high. Mind you, even if 50% for only 30, 50... octane for 30%, you're still going to have much better octane than pump gas, like a 93, and the cooling factors still make it so you can make power, but that's where they kind of have it maxed out in regards to the introduction of power, and I think that's slightly a little low in regards to reliability. I would tell you my True Flex fuels don't hit full optimum power until just under 80%, so again, it's the variable there, but yes, it is 70% is roughly where they have maximum power. MBT torque for what they're looking for there. So, good question.
A lot of knowledge coming at you. Some more knowledge, thing we see all the time. What should my trans temps be?
Oh.
I got an HP 70 and my Scatty Pack, and my trans temps are 200. Is that okay? Should I be worried? When should I care?
So again, this comes down to, for those jumping in later, whatnot, we were talking earlier about temperatures of things, right? And transmission is just as important. I will tell you the same, what I tell my customers. I have seen probably just as many transmissions fail due to the trans being too cold, just as much as transes that are overheating. So generally what I tell people, if you're at the racetrack or you're going for abuse, try to start it at about 140 degrees, because you know, by the time you do some type of burnout of your first pull, it's going to be at a very good operating temp. My happy place for them is probably, I'd say 170 to 200 degrees is a good zone for it. You can abuse it at 200 degrees. Again, I wouldn't back to back abuse it. I would let it take a break and cool down. So roll racing, for example, a lot of guys focus on engine coolant temp and such, but you should really look at your transmission, because you're doing back-to-back pulls at 230 degrees. The clutches don't like it for very long. So 140 is where I tell people, okay, you can start abusing it. Anything under that, let it idle, get up to temp, and, you know, try to get it to, like I said, that 170 range is a very good happy range going down the track all the way through. It also does affect the shift quality, again, viscosity. Obviously, the trans fluid is a lot thinner than that of engine oil, so it's not affected as great, but it is still greatly affected. A very cold trans fluid, because they're based on solenoids, right, in a pulsating matter, a very thick fluid doesn't flow as quickly or as easily as a at temperature fluid. So your shifts could be, you don't have enough pressure technically behind it, because the solenoid is pulsing at its duty cycle expected for a given condition, and it just can't flow enough fluid. So yeah, 140, start your fun. Ideal 170, 200 is where I like to play. So good question, though.
Have you ever tuned a Ram with a 6.4? Tons of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tons of them.
Quite a few of them. Yeah, we were talking about, again, kind of funny today, the 2500 Rams with the 6.4s. Those 6.4s actually can take a lot more abuse than the ones in the cars. They have a slightly different piston design because of they're expecting more load and torque because they're designed for towing, right? HD. So they actually can take a lot more abuse than the other cars. So yes, I've tuned quite a few of them, and we just had a customer in here the other day. He's got a built motor, Pro Charger on it and stuff. Went to the track running low 14s with it, having a lot of fun with a big old truck like that. So yeah, we can tune them absolutely, and you get yourself a 6.4 truck motor. They can take a little more abuse than the car ones. So.
Spicy little things.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. What we got? Any more questions?
I haven't seen any more. Blake Mushin finally showed up after being gone for like 30 episodes. Nice to see you, Blake. Let's see. I don't think. Oh, Holley EFI or factory computer setup. I guess it would depend on the goals.
Yeah,
that's gonna be.
Yeah. Hey, so good. Could you throw a Holley EFI system at your car? Absolutely. Should you? It's based on the application and what you're doing with it. You know, these factory computers compared to stuff from 15, 20 years ago are very, very sophisticated and can handle quite a bit. The Holleys obviously are geared and superior towards racing. So it's one of those things where, you know, it's hot rodding and so on and so forth, right? So that's really kind of up to you and what your goals are with the vehicle. I can't say yes or no the other. You know, obviously if you throw a Holley in, you got to get something for your gauges, right? You got to figure out, you know, for inspection and emissions where you're at, how you're going to pass that.
Yeah.
And I guess the questions are, why would you have to go to a Holley? What can your factory computer not do? Sure, on the non-Hellcat powered vehicles, you get wideband control and things like that, and you know that's definitely the case. So somebody joined late. It looks like. So that's one of those things.
Very late
for you know what you're going to be using the vehicle for. Holley race specific, absolutely. We've done a few, and you know we're big fans of the Holley and the capabilities from a racing standpoint. But again, it's really based on what you're going to do with it. Any type of street car, I would say no. There's more than enough capabilities for a street car, but if it's not seen the street, then yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So who's that? Jimmy. So we the beginning portion of this video was all talking about the 180-degree thermostat, if it's worth it. So what we discussed, you know, instead of going over it one more time, I will say that the 180-degree thermostat is not for performance improvement. There is no performance gains coming from a thermostat. Okay. Yeah, we'll see that first. There you go. You see the scat pack. We'll see the boost. So the 180 thermostat. There's no performance gains from it in regards to a stock bolt-on cammed vehicle, NA, anything like that. Unless you turn it into a race car where you have the specific items in place. No problem, Jimmy. We get it. You can when we stop it, you can rewind it and go back. But I'll do the summary of it real quick. So what is important is an engine at operating temp, so everything evaporates accordingly, oil breaks down and gets to achieve viscosity, and then you want cold air getting into the engine. So what we should see more on is focusing on intake system that doesn't bring in hot air over trying to cool the water and the oil down, because hotter oil and water makes more power with colder air. So Pro Charge, it's fine. My twin turbo Charger Hellcat made 1500 wheel, had a stock thermostat in it. Again, you have an air-to-air intercooler on your setup. That's going to cool the air. So you want your engine oil to achieve proper viscosity. You want your coolant temp at operating temp with the cold air entering. By putting a thermostat in, you're not going to see any colder inlet temps or air charge temps. Prove me otherwise. So, and if you do, it might be 5 degrees, which is nothing. You know what I mean? So what you want to make sure your oil gets to the advertised viscosity, which is rated. So that 0W40 again is rated at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you don't achieve that, that means you're not achieving the proper viscosity of the oil. We call it the breakdown point. You're not achieving the proper breakdown, and water doesn't evaporate until 212 degrees. So all you're going to do if your oil doesn't get hot is store water in your oil.
That ain't no good.
Not good for anything.
No.
So, no problem. And like I said, we went into thorough details, so once we're stopped, you can rewind it to that. So I saw another question.
Yes. Is there any way to get past the 200 kPa limit in a GPEC 2 ECU without screwing map readings?
No.
Sorry, Dylan.
Sorry, Dylan.
Sorry.
It is a physical limitation of the computer. So no, there is not a way around it. You can skew your map sensor and your VE tables and everything so that you can get a boost reading on a data log higher than the 2-bar or 2,200 kPa, but it is a physical limitation of the computer. You cannot exceed it. There are ways to tune it where you can make more boost, but you physically won't see that reading in the computer itself.
Suspension upgrades. Lester says, what are your recommendations for Hellcat suspension upgrades for the quarter-mile racing? I would say tire, diff brace, AD drag pack.
That's a loaded question. Depends on the power you're making.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
tell you,
true.
like, for example, our level 1.5 cars, tire, drag pack, 17-inch radial wheel, rear diff brace, and send it. Believe it or not, the suspension on Hellcat, specifically as you listed, are very good from the factory with the adjustable suspension and capabilities, the durability of it. Very good. Now, if you get to the higher horsepower setups, then you can start to dive in. We do the AAD drag pack setup for the rear and DSC controller. So that's what we had on our shop car, cut high 1,260 foot, weighing over 4,700 pounds. So it depends on the power you make. And again, it's similar to like injectors or anything like that. You don't necessarily need to swap anything out until you exceed the power limits of what's there. Now, does it hurt to do an AAD drag pack when you're only making stock horsepower? No. Every little bit counts, but you start to lose some of the luxuries in regards to the vibration.
Things
we
get a
talked
bit
about
tighter.
it. Yeah, it's tighter, feels good, but you hear things more, you feel things more. So it is one of those things we did discuss, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago about
Something like that.
the sacrifices of swapping out, single piece drive shafts, cradle lockouts, suspension changes, polyurethane specifically, mounts and stuff. So in regards to that, if you want to go down it, the DSC controller I think is a great upgrade. Even on a stock car, it does improve the ride. It's just a more sophisticated suspension controller that has a processor that's much faster, so it gives better feedback. So you can definitely...
Yeah, Blake says 100% hear things more.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Hear and feel things more, yes.
If
you're
you're
more in
us-
tune with the car,
If you're those people where it's like a little rattle drives you absolutely insane, maybe stick more factory, but AAD for the win, absolutely.
Yep.
They got a whole bunch of cool color options.
Yeah, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you want to upgrade it, AAD drag pack, the performance diff brace, and the DSC controller, and Hellcats really don't need much more. Obviously, the people say the Demon springs or the HHP drag springs. My car had the stockers on it, but once you dive into it that far, it doesn't hurt, right? Every little bit does help. Just not required. You can cut solid 1,360 foots up to 900, 950 wheel horsepower easy. And then exceeding that's when things start to twist a little and break. And that's when it's really, really good idea to jump into it. But yeah, that's where we see it there. So
I think that's about it today.
Did you show them the billet intake manifold, the piece we had on Joe's desk? I think somebody wants to see that.
Oh, I think someone does want to see it. I think someone's in the chat.
Yeah, so we'll wrap this up with our update on our intake manifold. So like we talked about last week, there's a ton of coating. We're taking our time, making sure everything is good. Joe is losing hair every day. This poor 25-year-old is going bald. So we will show you. I know there's a couple in here.
What up, gang? This thing is big and it's sexy. Look at that. Hubba, hubba. Back from your honeymoon. Here's a second honeymoon. Look at it.
There you go. So that's the base for our billet intake manifold. The initial draft revision on it, you'll see. Flip it around so they see. So the way it's going to work is our runners will bolt in with O-ring gaskets there. So you'll have your runners for the different setups that we have. We will have one for 6.1, 5.7, 392, Hellcat, everything in between. Inside, you can see again O-ring gasket setup for it. This bolt pattern is set up for the air-to-water intercooler that we will bolt into it, or we have our lid that Joe is also making as well. And it also is going to have the provision for all map sensors on it for Hellcats when selected. Has the provision in the back for the map sensor for NA setups.
Ooh.
So we thought it through, guys. Like I said, this is going to be a very well-performing. It's going to look pretty naturally. It's billet. How can it not? But what we went for first is the performance of it, budget-friendly. So we're making it as I don't know if he's going to let it go, but
I'm not.
We thought it'd
It's
be a good
thick,
way
too.
to end it. Yeah,
It's nice and thick. You're not going to have any issues of flex or anything from boost.
yeah, and that's another thing we want to make sure for very high demanding, high temperature, tough conditions. It will be good. So,
where does the rest of the map sensors
the other
go?
map sensors
On the bottom. Yeah, and then on the top.
there will be one in the lid, and then there will be one in a. We're going to have it in a
Runner.
little spot where the. No, it's going to be where the throttle body adapter goes. Yeah, so we're going to have them all in place, ready to go. So, yeah, that's it, guys. So, as always, thank you again for taking the time to watch. If you're coming in late, like I said, once we stop it, you can wait a second. We'll upload and you can go back. We also upload it on our YouTube. So, thank you again, everybody, for the support and taking the time to check in. Hopefully you like it, and we'll see you guys next week.